Blinie skopatkadzie boskłama lames konienie bufadie karpors nuta. Ha!
In over 40 years of video game history, many games have come and gone, but only a few of them stood the test of time.
Little Big Adventure 2 was one of my favorite games when I was younger. Even though it's often overlooked in lists of classic games, LBA still has a special place in the hearts of many, and I've been searching for a working copy for years. Thank God it's finally available on Steam now. The reason LBA is so loved up until this day is simple. It's just so bloody charming and cute, but the story also has some pretty serious moments that'll keep you playing just to find out how things turn out. The intro does a great job of giving a bit of backstory and setting the tone for the rest of the game. We'll see our hero Twinsen relaxing by the sea with his girlfriend Zoe when a thunderstorm hits the island, and Twinsen's pet Dino Fly gets hit by lightning and crashes down. To heal Dino Fly, you first have to get rid of the storm, but doing that is only the start of a lot of problems for Twinsen and his friends. Flying saucers appear from the sky, and before long strange aliens known as Esmers are everywhere you look. Looking for a wizard to heal Dino Fly, Twinsen finds out all the wizards have disappeared. Coincidence? I think not. After becoming a wizard himself, Twinsen sets off to find his fellow wizards, but when it turns out the Esmers also want to destroy the planet, things get personal. Twinsen sets off for the Esmer planet of Zealish to save his planet, but it turns out the Esmers aren't the biggest problem. They're about to resurrect an ancient god, Dark Monk, and the destruction of the planet is actually part of the ritual to resurrect him. So now there's another planet to save from certain doom.
The time is near. During the next ceremony, Dark Monk, our reincarnated god, will reunite the four keys of the four Zealishian races. And the ground will open, and the gas and its monsters will flee screaming into the sky.
Zealish turns out to be an entire new world with a lot of new locations to visit and NPCs to help out. There's just so much to see and do, and most locations also have little secrets and references to the real world, making every place really fun to explore and just check out every nook and cranny. One of my favorite moments was when I walked into a bar to find Gene Simmons of Kiss rocking out on stage. He even spat fire at me when I walked up to him. On the other hand, he didn't try to sell me any Kiss merchandise, so it's not that realistic, but it's a fun little touch. The story goes all over the place, and I mean that in a good way. Even though there's way, and I mean way too much padding in the game, just traveling around locations, doing one or two minor things, just to have to go back to where you came from. But there's just so many unique locations to see and characters to meet, you'll soon find yourself talking to everyone and checking everywhere just to find the smallest secret. You'll become a wizard, visit alien planets, gamble at a casino run by crocodiles, and you even fight a resurrected god. A story like this is so rare in today's games, it's almost worth playing it just for that. And another cool touch is that all the NPCs have spoken dialogue. Even though there are some accents in there that may be considered borderline racist these days, the voices are done really well, and most of the NPCs actually sound more convincing than Twinsen himself.
To our Wheel of Fortune! So, you're the one fate has chosen today to try for our super jackpot! Excellent, excellent! Now, just stand behind the wheel on the small podium, give it a whirl, and maybe I say, you will hit it big!
The soundtrack is amazing too, and really adds to the whole atmosphere. So far so good, but after almost 20 years, how did the gameplay hold up? Well, this is where things get difficult. I really love this game, but the technical side of things just didn't age very well. Let's start off with the different stances, or behaviors. You can choose to let Twinsen act normal, sporty, aggressive, or discreet, and each behavior has its own set of moves and possibilities. The sporty stance will let you run and jump, while the aggressive stance lets you fight, etc. This sounds like it could work, but because the special actions of the behaviors are all set under the same button, you'll keep switching between behaviors and stances more than you'd like. For example, you spend a lot of time in sporty because that's the fastest way because you can run everywhere. But to interact with someone or talk to someone, you have to switch to the normal stance. Especially because the buttons to switch stances are F5 to F8, that doesn't really make things easier. Another thing to mention is the camera. There are a couple of static camera positions you can choose between on the go, and when you exit the screen it will switch automatically. Another thing that could work fine, on paper, but the problem is that most of the camera positions are either too far away from your character or they obstruct your view, leaving you with another button to spam constantly, and because this is backspace, once again it doesn't really make things easier. And then there's the combat. Twinsen uses different kinds of weapons to fight the aliens, and these are also far from standard. You start off with a magic ball you can chuck into an enemy's face, but you also get a blowpipe, a laser gun, and you can even get exploding RC penguins. The first couple of enemies you encounter are pretty easy to beat, but the trouble starts when you start facing multiple enemies at once. When you get hit, you get stunned and you move backwards, and because there's a wind up to your ranged attacks and a limited range to your melee attacks, this can cause a lot of problems and things can get pretty nasty pretty fast. There's just no way to avoid enemy attacks sometimes, forcing you to turn your back on them and let them hit you until you're close enough to punch them on the nose. This could cost you precious lives, and because the autosave function isn't as good as it is these days, it can lead to replaying whole chunks of the game if you don't save regularly. There's also a lightning spell that kills all the enemies on screen, but it requires a full magic bar, so make sure that you have that ready whenever a big fight is coming up. All in all, it may seem that LBA failed the test of time even worse than Jet Set Radio, but I'm really torn on this one. The nostalgia of playing this again after all these years is a factor, but there's just so much charm to this game, and the story is so good compared to modern AAA games that I'd say it's worth soldiering through the dated gameplay and experience this game at least once. While recording the gameplay, I've had multiple times when I almost smashed my keyboard through my screen, but when I had enough footage, I found myself playing the game even more, just to finish it at least once. They just don't make games like this anymore. And how many games will let you do this these days?